Sometimes we think if we just achieve the thing, the job, the dream, the recognition, then we'll finally feel settled inside ourselves. But what happens when you actually get the thing and realize you're still carrying the same old questions underneath it? In today's episode, I'm talking with Broadway performer and actress Ally Bonino, a good friend of mine. And while this conversation starts with Broadway, it really becomes about so much more than that. We talk about ambition, identity, body image, belonging, nervous system regulation, and the strange, sometimes disorienting experience of finally getting something you've worked toward for years and realizing that achievement doesn't automatically quiet the old stories inside of you. Ally shares what it was like to spend years pursuing this dream, to finally make her Broadway debut, and to still wrestle with deeper questions about worth, identity, and belonging. We also talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough in the performing world: representation. Ally opens up about what it has meant to be a plus-size actress in an industry that has historically had a very narrow idea of what a, quote, Broadway body, quote, should look like. And even though the phrase representation matters can sometimes feel overused, the truth is, it really does. When people can see themselves reflected on stage, in art, and in storytelling, it expands what feels possible. I see this all the time in my work with teens, how powerful it is when someone finally feels like there's a place where they belong. Ally shares powerful moments of audience members telling her how meaningful it was to simply see someone who looked like them standing in that space. Throughout the conversation, we kept coming back to something I talk about a lot in my work, that growth requires both safety and friction. We need challenge that stretches us, yes, but we also need support, relationships, and spaces where we feel seen enough to keep becoming who we are. So yes, for my Broadway nerds, myself included, this episode is about Broadway. But it's also about teens, parents, performers, athletes, and really anyone who has ever wondered if getting the thing would finally make them feel like they've arrived. It's a really honest conversation about identity, resilience, and learning how to keep evolving without losing yourself in the process. Thanks for listening. "12 years ago, we were working together at a restaurant in New York City. I was a baby."
I feel like we all were babies. Like, I felt grown up, but looking back, I was 24. Like, my frontal lobe was not fully finished fusing.
It's so funny because for me, being like 18, 19, I thought you guys were like so much older than I was. Like, not in a bad way, but like in a maturity way. But it was so formative. And that's where we met. And that's where I met a lot of really cool people. So, like,
Yes. And I still
thankful.
have cash tips from that time.
No,
I still
what?
have I still have like some of the cash tips that I made.
Do you remember? It was a Monday night. He wanted to go hang out with this girl after, and he was like, "Hey, can you switch with me sections?"
Yeah.
Like table 21. I still have dreams about this restaurant.
I do too. I do too.
And I was like, "Yeah, no problem." I had someone sit down at my table, tip me $300 because his wife was coming in, and he was like, "She's a lot." And then I don't know if he forgot that he had already tipped me, but he tipped me like on top of like a 6-person meal. I made like $800 on like a slow Monday night.
That was the thing with that place, though. Like, it's why we all stayed a little bit longer than what was like healthy for us to do. Anyway, look at us now. Look at us now.
So we started in New York, and now you're like on Broadway. And I feel like, I was like following along on your Instagram, which social media can be terrible, but also like it's the reason I can stay in contact with a lot of people from like other parts of my life.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, a good friend of mine just made it to Broadway. I'm just so glad that it was you. You're like the sweetest person, like the kindest, beyond just extremely talented. It was so cool.
Thank you. It was such a long journey with that show. He didn't know if it was going to make it. I have so much like trauma with a capital T of like being replaced last minute with like people who are really famous or love more awards and stuff. And I was all like, I'm still waiting to be fired from it in a lot of ways. Like I'm waiting, you know what I mean? Like it's just, so the fact that it happened at all felt very special, and it was not lost on me how special of an experience that was, because it doesn't happen for everyone to get the thing that you've always wanted. I still pinch myself. It doesn't feel real.
So I have a confession to tell you.
Tell me. This is what podcasts are for, confessions.
I saw you perform on Broadway. This was in what did we just say, November of 2024. I had just had a baby in June. So I'm like 5 months postpartum. And my best friend, who I also met in New York, we were roommates. She lives in Europe and she's in the industry as well. And she was coming into New York to do a show. When your best friend lives so far away, like you do everything to try and find those times that you can see each other. Would normally not want to leave, but like I'm going to see Leia perform the show. And then I'm like, Ally's on Broadway. Like, so what I did, this is my confession. Leia and her husband were on like a tight budget. I was so excited about this. And I think she was a little bit like, okay, you're coming here to see me and you want to go see this Broadway.
You
like,
had
oh,
ulterior
of course you want to
motive.
go to the Broadway show where your, other friend performed. Anyway. And so I told her that you got us free tickets and I just paid for all three of them.
Totally would have hooked you up if you had just asked.
Next show, you can hook me up.
This is also 100% something I would do. I've done this exact thing for people.
Yes. And so she doesn't know that. I've never told her that I did that. And so if she listens,
find out.
I know, but I just felt
funny.
like, especially because it was November, because it was right after the election. And so it was a very intense performance. And I was like, I just can't miss this. And I also can't miss a night with my friend when we have 2 nights. And like, I need her to experience this too. So I was like, yeah, Ally, like, but I wasn't going to ask you. I just felt like uncomfortable. I don't want to take advantage. And also I wanted to support the art.
Absolutely. Listen, and I respect that. And also, ticket prices are so obscene. And like, if I am ever in a position where I can get you a ticket in the future, please just shoot me a text. Please, I beg of you.
Well, I wanted you to know that that's how much this meant to me, that I was willing to pay for 3 Broadway shows just so that I could see you perform. And then like, it was a magical, you were incredible. The timing of everything. I mean, it was so cool. So
that means a lot.
Good job.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
babe. Thanks.
But, that's all the exciting parts. And we can talk about how, Broadway and this thing that you've been working for so long. But guess what? I know that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like, take me back to that moment when you were finding out, like, you were booking stuff.
So we filmed it for PBS Great Performances, and they finally gave us our release date, May 8th, on Great Performances. So we'll get to see it again, which is very fun. I've been with the show since, I think the email came through like late 2017. And like the first workshop that I did was in 2018. Yeah, like a very long time. Very long time with this show. Yes. Which is like how it works a lot of times, like you get in at the ground level. And that first workshop in 2018, I was playing a different part. And like, I just remember doing this one number, and there were only maybe like 20 people in the room, but like everybody just sort of like sat back and like their eyes were like wide, and the music was amazing. And it felt very special being in that space. And I was like, I don't care if I am like holding like a sign in the background. I don't care if you want me to be a tree. Like, I just want to stay with this piece. Like, it meant so much, and the music was so incredible, and the story obviously was like very easy for me to get on board with.
Yeah.
And then it was just a lot of workshops over the next couple of years, and I was moved around different parts, and then I landed on playing Lucy Burns, which was one of the principals, which like was not on my bingo card. But thrilling, and it all sort of clicked. And then we were supposed to do it at the Public in November of 2020, and the pandemic sort of blindsided everybody's lives, including the world of theater. So we didn't get to do it for like 2.5 years. And the great thing is that we were doing it at the Public first, and they were very much like, when we come back, we're doing this. It's why we're trying to come back faster and sooner and stronger. And because so many productions just got completely meleeed by this and like never recovered from it. So we all felt very fortunate that the Public was there to like help usher it in. But then even like with the Public run, we were like, okay, like who knows what'll happen next. And we had one final workshop in the summer of 23. And I had texted a bunch of people from the cast. I just missed them. And I was like, I feel like I want to make lasagna for you all. Like, do you want to come over for a lasagna night? Which is very on brand for me. And like everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. I was having lunch with a friend and I hadn't checked my phone. I look at my phone and I have like 2 texts from Shayna Taub, who wrote the piece. And she was like, I think I'm gonna bring champagne to our lasagna night. And I was walking down Broadway. I was in front of the Nuts Factory on Broadway and like first with like this like waving inflatable thing next to me. I remember it so clearly. I stopped walking and I was like, am I to read into this or are we just getting lit? Like, what are you saying? And she was like, check your email, please. And so I checked my email and there was an email from company management and they were like, we would love to have you all on a Zoom in 2 days to discuss some stuff. I'm so not one to get excited before we have confirmation, and especially with the pandemic, I learned how to temper my expectations. But I
Mhm.
texted Shayna back and I was like, "Is this what I think it is?" And she
Mhm.
was like, "I will let them break the news, but I'm gonna be bringing a lot of champagne to this lasagna night." It was insane. I live like 40 blocks north from there, and like I walked the whole way home. I called my mom. I just couldn't stop moving. I thought I would cry, but I didn't cry. I was very like, I think this is happening. And my mom was like, no, it's happening. I felt uncontainable in that moment. Like I could have
Mm,
walked the entire length of Manhattan several times that day.
yeah.
I felt like I was buzzing. And then 2 days later, we had this Zoom and they were like, we're very excited to let you know that Sucks is going to be a part of the 2023-2024 season. And like we all just exploded. Like it was amazing.
I just can't imagine living with that tension for so long. I, like, went to acting school and was, like,
Mhm.
exploring that when I lived in
Mhm.
New York, and I always say that with, like, caution because I feel like I wasn't legit enough to be able to say that, but I don't think I could have handled how difficult it is to be in the industry. You get this job, and then this goes away, or then this comes back, or then there's this pressure to get something better, and I just feel like my type A control personality, I don't know, and I didn't last, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
It's a real challenge. It's not for everyone. I feel like if I were a healthier person or like kinder to myself, I would also transition into something else because you're not wrong. Like I am 100% a type A control freak.
Mhm.
And there is so much that is just out of your control. I couldn't control the fact that there was a pandemic that shut everything down. I couldn't control the fact that for years I would get passed over for other people. I call it a game because it is a game and it's all a racket. But like the game for me then became okay, in an industry where there is so much that is out of control, what is in my control? What are the things that I can control? Which is like being as prepared as possible, showing up for me, leading with kindness and empathy, creating a space where people feel safe and held. Like those
Mm.
are all things that are in my control. And if I can continue to control those, which like for the most part I have been, everything else sort of gets tempered. And it's still really hard, right? Because people will look at you and be like, well, it's not personal, it's business. But the line gets so blurry because the business is you as a person. So
Mhm.
for someone to say it's not personal, it's like, yeah, but you don't want my person to be a
Right?
part of this business. So what does that actually mean? There's a real element of like letting go of what is not in your control. For me, taking hold of what is in my control, holding on tightly to that. And everything else, I just have to toss up to like time and place and fate. It's taken me a very long time to be able to sit in the fact that like I'm really good at what I do. I know I'm very good at what I do. And that is such a small piece of this. It's
Isn't that
not,
so annoying?
it's incredibly frustrating. Knowing that that is a small piece of it, it makes it more palatable. It makes it more manageable, I think. I find that when friends of mine or even like students of mine are getting really burnt out, it's because they are focusing and fixating on all of the things that they will never be able to control, which is just a recipe for driving you insane. Because if you're like, well, why don't they just do this? And it's like, because you have no control over what they're going to do. you have to let that go. Finding the balance is important and necessary, because if you can't do that, it's just gonna come back and bite you. Some days I'm good at it and some days I'm really bad at it. And I'm like, well, why isn't this happening? Or why haven't I done this? And I think that's also just part of being human. But I try to practice that as much as possible. It's, let me tell you what, it's hard.
What you just said is what I talk to teenagers about all the time. This is like the framework that I've been kind of developing is like teens need safety and friction, right? And this idea of like this balance. You need enough emotional safety, but you also need some challenge. And that's kind of like what you're
100%.
finding in the industry. I can control this, I can't control that. And how do I live in this tension and allow
Yeah,
it to develop me into a person that is kind and empathic? Because at the end of the day, that's really what matters.
that's
Yeah.
exactly it.
But maybe sometimes we need less friction.
I mean, that would be great.
So you said that when you got the role, your body was buzzing. You walked all of Manhattan 10 times. When you actually like showed up
Mm.
to rehearsal, did it feel like I've arrived or did it feel like the imposter syndrome or how am I going to still prove myself day in, day out?
That first day of rehearsal was wild, because the first day of like any rehearsal is nutso, but like the first day of like a Broadway rehearsal, because there's like press that you have to do and like things that you have to film, and everybody's there. And like Hillary Clinton was there because she was one of our co-pros. It was already a crazy day. And I'm kind of grateful for that, because all of that extra noise distracted me from the fact that this was like a very big deal.
Yeah,
A very big deal.
it's a very big deal.
My imposter, luckily, was very quiet, and I was very grateful for that. And I think it's because there were 12 of us making our Broadway debut. It didn't feel like I was in this room of titans and I was this like, gee, I hope I can like pull my weight. Like, it felt very much like we had these incredible heavy hitters and then a bunch of us like scrappy debuters who were like, let's do this. We had enough of us, and not that the heavy hitters were making us feel a certain way. It felt very balanced. And I don't think
There's that
any
word
one
again.
of us, there's that word. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I don't think we felt like there were eyes on us being like, oh, look at these new kids on the block. Here's the thing about this industry too. I've been working in this business professionally for like 17 years. This was the first time that it had the word Broadway in it. I can say the same for, I think, 99% of all of us making our debut. In some form or another, we've been working professionally for a very long time. So it wasn't like we were these green people who didn't know what to do. But like there's always pressure. Always want it to be good. I always want to show up at my best. And there are just so many voices from growing up and like teachers who were not the best influence. Like all of that is always there. Most of these people, I'd been working with them by this point for like 6 years because it was a lot of the same cast. It felt like, oh yeah, this is my family. And now we're just going to do this on a stage at 45th Street. It felt cozy and safe and also really intense. The 12 of us who made our debut, we were all like, this has kind of like ruined us. Like it just set the bar very high for
Mhm.
so many different things. Like the way that that room was conducted, the way that there was a real emphasis on our mental health and well-being, which like
Mm.
doesn't happen a lot.
Mhm.
The creatives, we all loved them and they were all great. Emily Skinner was once like, it's not always like this, you know? And I was like, no, I'm getting that. Even the crew who works at the music box, you know, they're these like hardened teamster men. When we all got there, because listen, we brought in a lot of female energy into that space. And like
Yeah.
the first day we were in that theater, you could kind of see them being like, how is this gonna go? And then like a month in, they were like, we love you. We would step in front of a train for you. There was something about this group of people, everybody who left that show was like changed for
Mm.
good
Okay,
in a
wicked
lot of ways.
reference. I love that. I want more of that in the industry, in an industry
Yeah.
that's so much friction, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do we build safety? And you just
Yeah.
described that beautifully. I feel like Broadway is like the thing. getting that doesn't automatically calm your nervous system, right? Like it doesn't
What do you
make
mean?
you've arrived, you're done, we're
I
good.
mean, I'm done. We fixed it.
It can be both validating and also like getting the thing doesn't solve anything in some
Yeah.
ways.
I kind of left that year being like, this is going to sound so bad. I'm hearing it in my head, but I'm going to say it. It meant everything and nothing. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like it changed so much and it changed absolutely nothing. What we do is so ephemeral. And like, yes, we filmed it for PBS and you can watch it. It is a thing that you're doing for a certain amount of time and then it ends.
mhm,
And like the come down from that was really hard, was really, really hard. And I feel like I'm only now, like literally like a year later, starting to like kind of crawl my way out from that. And I
mm,
was talking with, people in the cast who'd been on Broadway before, and they were like, the first closing is the hardest. You go from this thing of like, okay, I've been like a puppy chasing the mail truck my whole life. And now I have this mail truck and it's here for a second, but then the mail truck pulls away and you're like, what? What just happened? What did I actually do with the mail truck? And now what that it's gone? Whatever finish line you think exists, it's not real. It is a
yeah.
mirage line that keeps moving the closer you get to it. I don't know that the finish line even actually exists. It's worth having a conversation of like, what does a finish line even mean if it is this sort of intangible thing? Because it's like the metric keeps changing. So like you do this one thing and it's like, okay, well now what? And that's a really tricky headspace to be in because if you're constantly like, well, now what? You're never going to find the fulfillment in it.
Yeah.
The absence of the show has been a real sort of meditation on like, okay, so then what is my worth if I'm not directly tied to a show or a project or a contract? I was a person before this show and I'm a
Mhm,
person after this show and I was a person in the show. It's a sort of mind scramble of like,
mhm.
your worth and what you think you deserve and what you expect next. And there's really no way to prepare for it until you're inside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which as a control freak, that sucks, right?
Hard. It's not great.
This makes me think of identity recalibration. We grow into different versions of ourselves, and how do we evolve without losing connection? This finish line doesn't actually exist. You're doing this so beautifully because you actually know what's important, how you show
Yeah.
up to people, how you love people, and doors will open, doors will close. And when you get to that finish line or the next mile marker or whatever it is,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
say, I'm proud of how I've showed up to these relationships. And at the end of the day, that's what follows me. And that's what opens doors too. I'm a believer in that.
Exactly. Exactly. Like my motto in this last year has really been like, do the work and the rest will follow. That's all I can do.
Yep.
And like how I show up with people, how I treat people, everything else, I just have to let it go. And it's so hard because I want to keep chasing the mail truck and I want to just
Yeah.
like bite it when it's there. But we can't always do that. This idea too was like really instilled in me as a kid that like Broadway is it. It's the pinnacle. That's it. And it's like, okay, so we've done that. So then it's like, well, now what? Because I
Yeah.
can't control the next time that's going to happen. The more we can have conversations, especially with young performers, about not like managing your expectations in a negative way, but taking this idea of Broadway, a Tony or an Oscar, like taking
Mm,
it sort of off the pedestal a little bit and just being like, what are you actually trying to accomplish? What is the impact you're trying to make? And
mhm.
if it's just like, I just want to be famous, and it's like, babe, that's what TikTok is for now. Like, you can do that. There are other avenues, but
Easier
like,
avenues.
there are easier avenues. If you just want the follow count and the blue check mark and so saw me and reposted, great. There are avenues to do that. I really feel like the more intentional you can be with your practice as an artist, the easier it will get when you find yourselves in moments where there is so much that's out of your control.
Okay, so answer that question. What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to create art that is impactful, that's meaningful, that tells stories that maybe have not been told before, or
Mm.
highlights people and voices that have not had the opportunity to be highlighted before. I'm also really down to break stereotypes around type and what we think of as like, I guess, like normal or like cis body size casting. I'm super here for that. That's kind of what I gravitate toward, is art that's like making you ask questions, shining
Mhm.
light on people and voices, and like breaking down old stereotypes. Let's
Yeah.
go.
I know I've already said this, but saying it again, if that's your goal, the performance I saw accomplished all of that.
You.
And even just to see your name on like a Spotify, like,
It's pretty
it's
cool.
like, it's
It's
so
pretty cool.
cool. Let's talk about the Broadway body.
How much time do we have?
I have a lot of friends like in the industry, interestingly
Yeah.
enough. And I work with a lot of girls and a lot of performers in some capacity. Do you feel like the Broadway body closed doors for you over the
Mm.
years?
Mhm. I would say yes, probably. I've always been acutely aware that my voice and my body have never quite synced up. I have like a very Disney princessy, ingenue voice, and then I have the body of a character actress, which is why I think we need to reassess what stereotypes exist around type and body size, because it's like hearing myself be like there's a disconnect, but there actually isn't, because it is my
Right.
voice in this body. So it's like the
Yes.
disconnect is not happening here, it's happening out here, which is
Mm.
very frustrating for me. I have been called in so many times to play Ursula in Little Mermaid. I have the hips of an Ursula and I have the voice of an Ariel, and I will start singing Poor Unfortunate Souls, and I
Mhm.
will watch the people behind the table go, "Huh," because I am an Ariel in the body of an Ursula. And like people don't know what to do with it. They don't know what to, well, I
No.
shouldn't say that. A lot of people don't know what to do with it. And then there are a lot of people who don't care, and they're like, "Yeah, let's go. Let's have a plus size Ariel. Amazing. Let's do it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm excited for more of those people to come to the forefront. There was this one director who I won't name because I do want to continue working in this business. He had a very vocal opinion about what bodies should look like on Broadway, and it became the the blank blank his name effect. And we are still recovering from that as an
Mm.
industry. I'm pretty sure in all of the shows that opened this season, there's maybe one plus size body
What?
on stage. The national size average is a 16. I think it's a real disservice to exclude bodies like mine, bodies like most people in this country, from seeing themselves represented on stage. It's a real shame. Like, I have the love of my life. I've lived a love story. Like, why can't that be reflected on stage? Why are the parts that I can play only like the plucky side characters, or like the comic relief, or the sea witch? We are
Yeah.
all the leading players in our own lives. Why can't that be reflected on stage? And there are a lot of people who are working very hard to dismantle this. Today, even, my manager reached out and was like, "Are you interested in us pushing this particular role?" And I was like, "Yeah, I cannot see a world in which they would hire a plus size person for this role, but like, let's try." My manager was like, "Let's go for it." I luckily have a team of people who are like trying to push those
Yeah.
boundaries. It's a real uphill battle. I will continue to fight. When you and I met, I was at my thinnest, but I was also at my most unhealthy. The things that I was doing to myself to maintain that, or to achieve that, I've been working very hard over the last 12 years to like stop doing that. If this is my body, give or take like the 20 or 25 pounds that we fluctuate just because we're human,
Mhm.
then I will continue to fight this fight
Mhm.
and push so that other people don't have to fight as hard for it,
Mm.
and don't have to go through a tenth of the that I went through
No,
coming up in this industry.
I feel like I see some progress forward, but then it feels like
100%
it's almost like it's I don't know, it doesn't feel
substantial enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a drop in the bucket. You're not wrong. We are seeing some change with this, with some casting being made in the right direction. But I think the way to do it is to just normalize it. And I
Mhm.
think that goes back to casting directors and producers being willing to give the green light for it to happen. If you're a casting director casting a movie where there's a romantic lead, bring in some plus size people and just
Mhm.
like have it be a thing. I want to see more content created where people are just existing in the bodies they're existing in and it's not commented on. I want to see a love story between
Okay.
Josh O'Connor with like a plus size woman and they fall in love and her weight isn't mentioned once. Like
Oh
he
my
doesn't
gosh.
love
Yeah.
her in spite of her weight and she's not loving him despite the fact that she has body issues. That's when stigmas get broken down, when we start to
Mhm.
normalize things and have conversations about it and realize that like a Broadway body is any body that's on Broadway.
Right. Literally.
Full stop. Period. End of sentence. It was in 2023 and I had a feeling that like Suffs was coming and there was this voice in my brain that was like, if you want to be on Broadway, you need to lose 50 pounds. I remember one of my dear friends, Rachel Sussman, was one of our lead producers. I was in like a bad eating spiral. I'd lost some weight, but like not in a good way. She was like, "What's going on here?" And I was like,
Mm.
"Nothing." And she was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I just feel like I need to like lose some weight before this happens." And she was like, "Have we given you that feeling?" And I was like, "Well, no, nobody's ever said anything on this team." And she was like, "Exactly, because
Mm.
we love you in this body and this is the body we want you to take to Broadway." So that
I
was
love
like,
this person.
oh, we love Rachel Sussman. We love
Rachel.
her.
I don't know you, but I love you.
And it was in that moment that I realized like I do carry so much unconscious trauma. In my head, I was like, okay, we're going to Broadway. We're going to open in March. I need to lose 50
Mhm.
pounds by that point. But then like, Rachel Sussman, she sent me a mock-up of the poster before it was out in the world. And the blue dress, she's plus size. I think that was the first time I cried. And she goes, "We really wanted to represent all bodies and your body on this poster." When we talk about change happening, there are people who are pushing for it. It's just right now we find ourselves in a real sort of tug of war between this like old school mentality and new school mentality.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for the new guard to take over and take more control because this old school, old guard, they're digging their heels into some really awful habits that we don't need anymore.
Achievement doesn't heal these attachment wounds that you have, they decorate them. And
Ooh,
how
I
loud do
love
you
that.
feel like the this tug of war between old school and new school? What is actually happening right now on the ground?
My dear friend Mimi Scardula was in the most recent revival of Cabaret. She played Texas. She has become such a role model for me. If I am having a bad day, if my body dysmorphia is really out to play, I literally will look at myself in the mirror and I'll say, "What would Mimi wear? What would Mimi do?" Because
Mhm.
she is so vocal about this. She's louder than I am about being like, why was there only one plus size body in this season's breakdown of new casting announcements? Her confidence and the way that she moves through the world. If I can be like Mimi, I want to be more like her in her
Yeah.
advocacy and just in the way that she's so outwardly, and again, everybody has their own journey and their own demons and their own feelings, but outwardly so ferociously loves herself. It is stunning to watch. I talk about it when I can. I use my platform to talk about it. I would love to get into like a round table with like casting directors, have a real conversation about like, are you bringing people in? Are you reaching out?
Mhm.
Or you have like your two or three people who are like your plus size go-tos. There's a
Yeah.
world of us. I would be curious to have a conversation with some of the people who are maybe at the forefront of making that change. It was such a double-edged sword being on Broadway with that original mentality of like, I have to lose 50 pounds if I want to achieve this thing that's been my lifelong goal. And then we started the show and like the amount of letters and messages I received and like talking with people at the stage door who would like grab my hands and be like, I cannot tell you what it means to
Mm,
see a plus size body on a Broadway stage in a way that's not like Tracy Turnblad or like the butt of a joke. It is so complicated. It's such a complicated thing.
mhm.
And the response that I got, and I know Mimi also received this too, because Mimi can also like kick her face. She is a dancer. You're not calling me in for the dance track, but like I know that people love Mimi as well. And it's like, it's that thing in my brain where I was like, so the thing you've always talked about, this representation, you're doing it. And yet my first thought when I found out
Yeah.
that this was happening was that I needed to make myself smaller to exist in this world. And then I got really mad at myself. I got really mad at myself. And then I was like, you need to give yourself grace. This is your first time experiencing
Yeah.
all this stuff. Sometimes you don't realize that you are a part of the thing you're talking about or a cog
Yeah.
in the machine of it. But like getting those messages, meeting those people, and having them see themselves reflected, like I will carry that with me for the rest of my life.
I don't know if this is ignorance or if this is something different, but like I feel like when I was watching this performance, I didn't even think of you as a plus size. Is that terrible?
No, and I
Is that
think
okay?
that's but I think how dare you? No, I
I
think
wasn't
that's the
thinking like, oh,
point.
I'm watching a plus size model or, model, yeah, right, like actress on stage.
Thank you.
I wasn't thinking that.
I think that's exactly the point because it
Yeah.
wasn't a plot point. It was
No.
just a person up on stage
Yeah.
doing something, living
And
her life.
singing, that's what I was focusing on. Like, damn, you can
Thank
sing.
you. Thank you. If we stop commenting on it, if we stop making it about, oh my God, it's a plus size person in love. I wonder when her trauma is going to come out. It's like, no, just let her be because
Yeah.
it's exactly like you said. Human brains are so attuned to receiving signals and input. And if
Mm,
you are constantly being fed a signal of like, oh, fat person, trauma and or funny, and it's going to be a part of this. And there it is. They just made a joke about it versus fat person. Oh, they're not talking about it. Oh, now I'm invested in the story in another way. It's like
mm,
the human brain will respond to the cues it's given. And
yeah.
in Suffs, there were no cues commenting on my weight. It was
Yeah.
just me up
Well,
on
I
stage.
I couldn't even tell you if anyone else was plus size. I was just like, wow, they are so good at singing. The story is amazing. It makes me sad that it's a thought for so many because I talk to teens all the time. Like, what percentage do you think is taken up in your brain of like body image or what you're eating or how you look or whatever? And it doesn't matter if I'm talking to a girl that's thin as a door or has curves or somewhere in between, right? It doesn't matter. A lot of times, if someone's struggling with this, it's like 70%,
Yep.
90%. And I'm like, so you're operating on 10% of your brain. You realize that, right? Like you could have focused on doing this training thing and losing 50 pounds, or you could have focused on, I don't know, like singing and dancing
Yeah.
and like acting, like the things that got you cast for this
Yeah.
role.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not surprised. It's all we're being fed. It's
Yes.
for years. Kelly Osbourne's weight was talked about mercilessly. And I never really saw her and was like, oh, she's like really overweight. She had like a baby face and some like extra, she was a human, you know?
Mhm.
And she was like ridiculed and dragged for her weight. And now it's swung the other way because we are in the time of Ozempic and Manjaro and all of these
Oh, right.
things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now it's swung this other way. And now they're villainizing her for being too thin. And I'm like, oh my God, when is it going to be enough? There's no way to win. And we are being fed so much noise that, like you said, just occupies
Yeah.
so much of our brain space in a way that is not conducive to anything,
Right. It
really.
it harms us, it holds us back, and then also it doesn't allow us to have like the full potential of our brain. I actually kind of want to know where this all started for you. If you feel comfortable talking about that.
I was like a thin, athletic kid until I was about 9. And then there was a lot of like bullying that happened, and I started self-soothing with food. And, I'm sure you can speak more to this, but that mentality of like, if I make myself bigger, you can't hurt me. I'm gonna make myself bigger, therefore you can no longer attack me.
Mhm.
So from like 9 until, adolescence and into that and into my teen years and early 20s, very overweight, very, very overweight. I remember doing shows in high school, and I would give the costume mom, because it was always a mom running the costumes, I would give her my measurements. And every year didn't have clothes in the right size for me. I got to college, and the director of our program, who's very problematic for a lot of reasons and has since left that position, sat me down my freshman year. I was 17 years old, and she tried to convince me to get gastric bypass surgery.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And because I was 17, I had to talk to my parents for their permission, because I was, say it with me, a child. Went to my parents and I was like, I need to get this surgery for my career. And my mom, bless her heart, was like, no. And I remember I had to go back to this teacher, and I like had my tail between my legs, and I was like, I'm really sorry. My parents said no. And because I'm 17, like I can't do it until I'm 18. But even then, like it's an elective surgery. So it's really expensive. So like I don't know that I'll even be able to afford it when I'm 18. And she was like, so you're refusing to get the surgery? And I was like, I don't know that I can right now. And she got really quiet. And then she looked at me, and I will never forget this as long as I live. She goes, okay, well, you're going to have to work really hard to convince people that you belong in these rooms then, if you're not going to lose the weight. And when I tell you that that little seed took root real quick in my adolescent brain, that has been like the phantom voice
Mhm.
since that day. Every single room that I walk into, whether it's an audition, whether it's a first rehearsal, whether I am stepping out on stage in a performance for a role that I've already booked, I hear that voice saying, you need to work harder to convince people that you belong here. She said that to me 16 years ago. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And like
Yeah.
it's still there. And in a lot of ways, it's shaped me into a really excellent performer. I have an incredible work ethic, and I show up even if it's a day where I only have like 60% to give, I give 100% of that 60%. Like
Mm.
I show up because I don't have I don't have the luxury of just being fine. I don't have the
Mm.
luxury of just showing up and being mediocre. I have to be excellent, because if I'm
Mhm.
not, then what am I? I'm just some like plus size girl who's okay. And that,
Mm.
in her mind, was not viable. That was not an okay option. I'm working really hard to undo all of that, but that's where a lot of it started for sure.
How important it is, and like kind of my mission of re-educating people. You can say one thing and someone can think about that for the rest of their
Yep.
life.
I teach primarily kids in like the 15 to 18-year range. Everything I say could be potential fodder for like something really destructive down the line. I am so aware of it. I'm
Yeah.
so aware of it. And this person didn't have that awareness, and like she did a lot of other shady stuff as
Mhm.
well. But like she got 2 other kids to get the surgery.
I don't have words for that. When you were talking about this, like feeling like you don't belong in the room, it makes me think of so many different things that we talk about in social work with like intersectionality of like race and gender and all of these places, size, income, whatever it is, all these places where we feel like we don't belong at the table, and
Mhm.
just how destructive that is.
It's 100% true, and it's so real, and having been in this industry as long as I have, you see it in all of those different ways. That sort of buzzword phrase of like representation matters, but like it does. And the more that we can see it, the more that we can embrace it and normalize it, the better we'll all be for it.
Mhm.
It's There's so much of me that's like, it's just laziness on the part of these like quote unquote gatekeepers. We're just
Yeah.
people
And the majority.
and the majority. I work in an industry where it is 100% acceptable to start singing and dancing at the drop of a hat. Like the suspension of disbelief exists for that. But like you can't have a person of color as a romantic lead. You can't have a plus size person as a romantic. It's like why do we have conditions on the suspension of disbelief? It seems so counterintuitive to
Yeah.
me. I need Mr. Broadway to explain it to me.
The team's going to call him in.
I've got some questions for Mr. Broadway. Let's be clear, he is a man.
You told me that you're a perfectionist, you're a people pleaser. And again, going back to this idea of balance, the hard things that you've been through, the friction, if we call it, have created this drive, this passion, right? Like it hasn't all been in vain. Because you've been
Mhm.
intentional about taking this pain and being like, I'm doing something with this.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it beautiful. I can see that so clearly in your life. And I love that. Sometimes those things can become survival strategies, and they also have a flip side where that can be really harmful. How do you feel like being accommodating or being a perfectionist or your eating disorder recovery? Where did that
Yeah.
start? Where are we now? How has it
Yeah.
kind of flowed?
Being an accommodating people pleaser, there will be people who will take advantage of that, like who will
Mhm.
really take advantage of that. Because at the end of the day, I just want you to like me. I just want you to be proud of me. I just want to know that I did a good job and I got a gold star, right? I do try to take all the things that happen to me and sort of reframe them, not in like a toxic positivity way, but I try to be like, what can I learn from this? Right. As opposed to just being like, this awful hard thing happened and it sucked. And oh my God, it was awful and terrible. And can you believe poor me? I try to be like, okay, this thing happened. What can I do next time so that this does not happen again? For a very long time, the idea of setting a boundary was like a very bad thing because, like,
Uh,
if I set a boundary, people might think I'm difficult or they might think that I'm being a brat or I'm being a diva. I look at my friend Nikki M. James, who is so succinct and so unbelievably good at setting a clear boundary in a way that you're just like, oh yeah. I never walked away from watching her set a boundary being like, wow, what a there is a way to do it where you're still a kind person, you're still empathetic. You hear them, you're like, I see what you need from me. This is actually what I'm capable of giving you right now. It's all about finding that, again, the balance of it.
the Broadway balance.
The Broadway balance, because like when that balance isn't there, for me, it felt very draining and it felt like I was just giving and giving and giving into this like bottomless well
Mhm.
of certain people who were just pulling from me and expecting things. I want to get angry with them. The responsibility falls on me because I let
Yeah.
that happen.
Yeah.
It's surprising sometimes when it creeps up on you and
Yeah.
sometimes it can be nefarious in how you realize that you've given away pieces of yourself that you're like, I don't remember doing that, but I must have because
You took
I
it.
no longer have that piece of
Yeah.
me.
We've talked a lot about industry and culture and what's changing, and you kind of alluded to like after the curtain falls and like just how difficult that can be after a project ends, right? Your nervous system is like, you got the thing. And not only the thing, it's bright lights, it's costumes, it's press, it's like rubbing elbows with Hillary Clinton and certainty, right? I feel safe. And then it ends. And
Mhm,
then it's like you have to start all, not all over
mhm,
again, but like I'm sure that's what it
mhm,
feels like for you. And
mhm,
this
mhm.
recalibration of like, okay, now what? Like, how are you living in that space right now?
I just talked with my therapist about this today, which this is
Yay,
so
therapy.
synchronistic. Look at this. At the end of last year, I worked on another contract, which was great. It was like 4 months and like I felt like myself again. I know who I am when I am working on something. When I'm on stage, it is the safest I feel. My brain goes quiet. I'm not worried about things. I have never been someone who gets stage fright. I think in my brain, I'm like, you know how to do this. You know
Yeah.
exactly what's expected of you. You know where to be, when to be, how to be. Everything else in my life, I get stage fright with. Like living gives me stage
Interesting.
fright. The performance of life gives me stage fright. But like, I have no idea when the next contract is going to be, right?
Yeah.
I could get off of this call with you and have like an offer or like an audition, or it could be like weeks to months. I may never get to Broadway again. I just have to acknowledge that that is a reality, right?
Yeah.
If I am existing in a world where there is so much uncertainty, again, so much that is out of my control. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like, January, not gonna lie, not a great month for me. We closed our show in December and then we went right into the holidays, and then January hit, and I was just like, what do I do? I don't, my time is unstructured. I have no schedule. I felt like out of my body, and I've slowly
Yeah.
been coming back into it. And the thing we were talking about today with my therapist, Amy, who I love, she's amazing.
Amy.
Um, Amy was this idea of like, okay, so if we live in this uncertainty, what do we do? Which is like a very simple question, but like, what do we do? And it came back to this idea of intentionality, right? Like waking up in the
Yes.
morning, what am I going to do with my day? I can either sit here and wallow and be like, why is nothing happening? Or I could go for a walk. I could go to the gym. I could meet a friend and like connect with someone. I could work on a project. I could write. I could work a little bit on my album that we're hopefully releasing soon. Like there are
Hey.
things that I can channel my creative self and energy into
Yeah.
that will hopefully give me the same sort of like cortisol boost that performing does, because it's all the
Yeah.
same. It's all coming from the same creative spring. I just have to learn how to like channel it into different estuaries from
Mm-hmm.
time to time. So that's the meditation right now. It's like
Yeah.
leading with intentionality and like, who knows? I'm sure there'll be some days where it's like, I do just sit around and I'm like, everything sucks. I hate this. And that's also okay. What I am refusing to do anymore is living in that and
Mm.
letting that be my stasis when I'm not working on something.
Yeah.
Because if my worth is only connected to the contract that I'm working on, that feels like a recipe for disaster and
Absolutely.
unsustainability. I think in my mind, it's like, well, me performing, that's the rule. I think that's actually the exception. The
Mm.
rule is what I'm doing with the rest of my time. And then the
Yeah.
performance is like me elevated. If I can, in my day to day, when I'm not working on something, get to a space where I feel like content and fulfilled and creatively motivated and dropped in, when I get to work on a contract, it's just like ratcheted up a little bit, as opposed to like performing, not performing, like bringing them a little bit
Yes.
closer to each
Ooh,
other.
I love
You
that.
know?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I like your
Again,
therapist.
the balance.
The ballot. I was like, I don't want to say it again, but like
The balance.
Amy
Talk about
balance.
being
Okay.
talk about being regulated.
Sometimes to get better, you have to slow down as an
Yes.
athlete, as a performer, and that's what you're talking about. Like you have to have some space in between contracts. There's so much like there that you can, blossom and stuff like that.
Say you're like here and you want to get to here, right? You have to live in the this space a little bit before you can progress. And it's this idea of like, and then it's like, okay, so then we get here and we want to keep pushing, but like the growth is what happens here. It's what allows you
Yes.
to push past it.
I'm very driven with a lot of
Yeah.
different things. And I think this past 7 years when I've been like popping out these kids has been this time where I feel like I've been in a cocoon. And I've just
Hmm.
been like taking things in, knowing like where I like had a direction. I was working, but very limited. And like I felt like I was absorbing, I was maturing. And now I think that's why I feel so confident of like, I'm going to start a podcast.
Sometimes like you need to sit in the
The middle.
stillness and that just sort of like calm to see where things are settling. Because otherwise, if
Yeah.
you're just constantly kicking up dust, you can't see anything. There was always music in my house. My dad was a big classic rock guy. My mom loves like Motown. I grew up with a lot of different types of music. When I was in elementary school, I was really really bullied by these kids, and I found safe places in the school where they weren't around. And one of them was the music room. And I would just go and I would like sneak away. I should not have been in there by myself, but like I would sneak away to the music room and just like hang out. And my music teacher in 3rd grade like found me singing, and she was like, "I'm going to call your parents." And I thought I was in trouble. She was like talking with my mom and she was like, "Do you know that your daughter can sing?" And my mom was like, "I mean, like we've heard her." And she was like, "No, like you should look into this."
Yeah.
And my parents did, and we found this program for kids, and I started with voice lessons, and then we would put shows on, and they were always so supportive, and they were
Mm,
never stage parents.
mm.
Now, like being an adult and seeing younger kids with some stage parents, I'm like, you need to take a step back. Like there's a
Yeah.
way to be supportive without running the show.
Yes.
But they were always so kind, and they never once were like, "When are you gonna get a real job?" Like, or like, "When is this phase gonna be over?" Like, I think they saw very quickly that like theater was a real safe space for me. And with everything that was going on at school, they wanted to foster that as much as possible. And then it's like in high school, I started to realize this could be my career.
Yeah.
And they were never like, "Are you sure?" They were always just like, "Yeah, great. What can
I
you
love
do?
that.
What can we do? What do you need?" And that's just always been the arc with them. That's the
Yeah.
constant. There's just been so much support. And I think that's important for parents to understand, is like, is this the most stable career? Absolutely not. But like if it's the thing that your kid loves, if it's the thing that brings your kid fulfillment or joy or like safety, why not foster that? Like, why would you want to be another voice in an already difficult industry, shooting them down or making them doubt themselves? Just like yes and it. Be like, yeah, absolutely. Like, how can we help? We got your back.
I experienced that from my mom. Just, I'd be like, I'm moving to New York at 18, and I'm from the Midwest. And then I was like, I'm moving to Australia. And she was like, okay. I remember I was offended when she was like, are you like, did you think about that? But for the most part, it was always like she trusted that I could handle myself.
Yeah.
And also, I was someone that, like, if she had said no, I'd have been like, that's cute. Like, I'm going to be doing it anyway. And then how weird that I ended up getting married at 22 and like had 3 kids, and I've just been this like suburban life is so weird,
Life
but
is
it's so good.
weird.
A lot of times when I talk to parents, they're just so worried. They're
Yeah.
so worried that their kid is not going to be okay.
Yeah.
And what I've heard from another psychologist one time and that I just love is like kids move through the world differently, and like that's okay. Like
Yeah.
we don't have this preconceived ideas of like you should be this, you should be that can just be so noisy. And nowadays, parents just have so much more anxiety of like if they've done a good enough job, like if their kid's okay. And it's not whether like they agree with their path necessarily. It's like she's not doing her chores. Oh, like I don't think she's going to make it through college, which I get. So what your parents did is they trusted you. They gave you the
Yeah.
support and period, I guess.
You don't want your kid to hurt or fall like you did.
Yeah.
But that is such a part of growing up. If you are going to be a parent who is very present and like controlling, I guess, at what point does that stop? And
Mhm.
are you actually servicing your child, or are you trying to like heal something that happened to you? Perhaps. I don't know. Again, I have a BFA in musical theater. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm talking about. It takes a certain amount of like ability to take a step back and see the bigger picture as opposed to like, how is this affecting me as the parent?
Or like the reflection of me as the
A
parent.
reflection of me. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, like we are all individual people and like we're
Mhm.
all gonna do things well, we're all gonna fail. That's a part of growing up.
My biggest growth has come from my hardest moments, and my biggest
Yes.
failures or difficulties have been the soil in which I blossomed out
Yes.
from that, and
Like
thank
a
God.
phoenix from the ashes. But like, yeah, we have to crash and burn a little bit. And I think there are some really good things about how dialed in we are to social media and stuff. Like it lets us connect. It lets us
Mhm.
stay in touch, but also like this cycle of just having access to people 24/7, and not only that, but seeing like hyper curated versions of reality
Yeah.
that we're then like, well, that person's doing it that way, so I should be able to do it this way. And it's like, bro, they spent 3 days making that video and they edited it within an inch of its life and they have filters. There's a real cognitive dissonance happening right
Hmm.
now with like what we're seeing versus like reality.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it with parents, like with these kids that I'm working with. And I think it really just comes down to like, you have to trust your kids. You have to trust them
Mm.
and let them fall. Let them
Mm.
make a mistake. It's okay. It's okay. Especially with theater. It's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? In 5 years, they're going to decide they want to try something else. Great. Few of us come out of the womb being like, I know exactly what I want to do. Like when I was younger, I thought I was going to be a firefighter. Literally thought I was going to be a firefighter. I have a fear of heights and ladders. I don't know what I was thinking, but like, you know what I mean? Like it changes. Your career path changes. What you want changes. All you have to do is support them and love them
Mhm.
and be like, "Hey, I got your back." Like, that
Yeah.
is insurmountable. That sort of like that support, incalculable, incalculable what that can do for a kid. Just to be like, "Hey, I see you and I have your back."
I know, it's
That's
really actually
it.
that simple.
That's it. I see you and I have your back. Boom. And you know what? If tomorrow you change your mind, fantastic. I still see you. I see you today and I still have your back.
Ironic that you use the word I see you because that's so much of the through line of the work that I'm doing. I'm doing a talk in a couple months. This idea of like seeing and being present with your child is really, there's so much parenting noise out there, but it doesn't have to be that complicated.
It doesn't. It
And so,
doesn't.
yes, you're in an industry that is cutthroat and intense, and there's friction up the wazoo, right? And you've got this safety of like a partner and friendships and parents that always believed in you and never questioned you. Like that's how you've been able to get to where you're at. And Amy, your
Yeah.
therapist.
God bless her. I had a really tough childhood. There was a lot of other stuff that went on too. In a lot of ways, I don't fully understand how I made it to here being as like quote unquote well adjusted as I am, because I have days where again I'm like I'm crazy and unlovable. Like who would deal with this, you know? But I think again, that's just
Yeah.
being human. But
Yep, it
like
is.
there is an element of like if one or two things had been different and like not big things, like if one or two small things had been different, I
Hmm.
don't know that I'd be here in
Wow.
a lot of ways. I really do practice gratitude, and I tell my parents all the time how thankful I am for them and like the sacrifices that they made for us growing up, like just yeah. Very, very it's not lost on me. Like when they say it takes a village, like it really does. And I look at my village and I'm just really like really stoked for the people in that village. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's a good village.
Oh, I wish more kids had such a strong village because it really can make all the difference. But what I do tell people too is like sometimes it's not your family system that can be that village for you. It can be a teacher, it can be a therapist, it can be a coach or whatever,
Yeah.
a friend's parent.
Yes.
That also takes pressure off of parents too because like it doesn't have to be all you. Let go of
Yes.
some control and let other people help.
Let the community build itself. Like let it happen. And also like I think I've really been sort of noodling on this idea with some of my students and some of my like, coaching clients, this idea of where is the call coming from? Like if we're having these negative thoughts, like is the call coming from inside the house or is it an external long distance
Uh-huh.
call? And like for me, I know a lot of my call is coming from inside the house started when I was so young.
Mm,
And like I'm just curious if these like patterns of self-talk begin at such a young age, if we can like condition ourselves from a younger age to
mhm.
talk kinder to ourselves
Mhm.
and to like get in the habit of practicing that from a young age so that the seeds that are planted are not ones of like I'm awful. I don't deserve this. It's going to be hard. All of those things that can really trip you up. What if instead you were like, I am worthy. I do deserve this. I am powerful. I am strong. I am enough. Like all of that stuff. If those are the seeds that we plant, that garden's going to look a lot different when we're older. Because right now, like I'm pulling out weeds that have been in there for a really long time and
Yeah.
they are pervasive. These weeds get everywhere, you know? Is it possible
Mm-hmm.
to start those habits when we're younger
Yeah.
and get in the habit of really practicing kindness and self-love as opposed to harm?
Critical, negative thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh. Oh my gosh. You're wonderful.
you're wonderful. Hey,
I appreciate everything. I'm just so excited about all of this, all the different layers to what we talked about.
you're doing such important work, Dylan. I hope you feel that. But like
Actually do.
really, these are like important conversations to be having, especially for teens. Like
Yeah.
it's such a hard age. You're not a kid, but you're not an adult. But
Mhm.
like you're not being treated like a kid, but you're also not being treated like an adult. And like we don't talk about
Yes.
this age enough and how hard it is. It's
Yeah.
really hard.
See, I wasn't lying. This episode was truly one for the books. Conversations like this are how culture actually changes. When we talk openly about identity, body image, belonging, and representation, it shifts the way we see ourselves and the way we show up for the next generation. And that kind of shift doesn't happen through one podcast episode. It happens when these conversations spread. So if something in this episode resonated with you, I want to invite you to help get this message out there. Share this message with 5 people in your life: friends, parents, teachers, performers, anyone who might benefit from hearing this conversation. Podcasts grow almost entirely through word of mouth, and every time you share an episode, you help these ideas reach someone new. And if you haven't already, take a second to follow the Parenting Teen Girls podcast. When you follow the show, new episodes will automatically show up in your feed, so you can keep getting these conversations, tools, and insights about teens, families, and mental health each week. If you want to help even more, because you're such an overachiever like a lot of people that are listening to this podcast, leaving a quick rating or review takes about 10 seconds, and it helps more parents and families find the show. Because this really isn't just about a podcast. It's about helping teens feel seen, it's about helping families feel less alone, and it's about shifting the culture around identity, worth, and belonging for the next generation. And until next time, keep showing up, keep having the hard conversations, and keep helping the next generation feel seen. And if this episode resonated with you, text it to a friend right now.